The red sun of XR 249 cast an eerie glow across the planet's twisted landscape as two ships fell from the sky like wounded birds. The human survey vessel, smoking from its engines, spun wildly toward the rocky surface. Inside, Jack gripped his restraints, his knuckles white beneath his suit's gloves. Warning lights flashed across his console as the ground rushed up to meet him. 3 miles away, Blue's diplomatic shuttle fought a losing battle with gravity. The alien's four-fingered hands moved quickly over the controls, but nothing responded. The solar flare had fried everything: navigation, engines, and most importantly, communications. Through the viewport, Blue watched helplessly as the human ship crashed into a field of sharp rock formations, sending debris flying in all directions. Jack's head throbbed as he pushed himself up from the smoking wreckage. His environment suit had activated automatically during the crash, its filters working overtime against the planet's toxic atmosphere. Through his cracked visor, he saw dark clouds gathering overhead. The ship's computer had warned him about the planet's deadly night cycle. Temperatures would drop low enough to freeze his suit's systems. "Just great," he muttered, checking his oxygen levels. 6 hours of air left. The survival pod was crushed beyond recognition, and his emergency beacon lay in pieces around him. The crash had scattered his supplies across the rocky ground. As he gathered what he could find, movement caught his eye. In the distance, a tall, slender figure emerged from the second crash site. Even from far away, Jack recognized the distinctive blue-tinted environment suit of the Stellar Confederation. An alien. His hand instinctively moved to his sidearm. Their species had been locked in a cold war for the past decade. Blue noticed the human at the same time. The alien's natural bioluminescence flickered anxiously beneath its suit, an involuntary reaction their kind could never fully control. Blue's scanner showed the atmosphere was highly toxic, and the temperature was already beginning to drop. The human's crash had destroyed any hope of salvaging parts from that wreck. They stood there, watching each other across the barren landscape. Jack's suit radio crackled with static before picking up a transmission in broken human speech. "Help. Need help. Air running low." Jack looked at his own oxygen gauge again, then at the gathering storm clouds. His training told him to be cautious. Aliens were known for their deception. But as the wind began to howl and the temperature dropped further, he realized they might not have a choice. "There's a cave system ahead," he responded after a long pause. "My scanner picked it up before the crash. If we want to survive the night, we need to reach it, together." Blue's luminescence pulsed with what might have been relief, or fear. The alien gathered its own salvaged supplies and began moving carefully toward Jack's position. They had less than an hour before nightfall. As they walked toward the caves, neither spoke. The only sounds were their boots crunching on the rocky ground and the increasing howl of the wind. Both knew that whatever differences lay between their species, the planet would kill them long before they could kill each other. What they didn't know was that XR 249 had plans of its own. Deep beneath the surface, ancient machines hummed to life, sensing the arrival of new specimens. The cave entrance loomed before them as the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon. Jack's scanner showed the temperature had already dropped 30 degrees. They stumbled inside just as the first wave of freezing wind howled past the entrance. Blue's natural glow illuminated the narrow passage as they ventured deeper. The alien's light pulsed with each step, casting moving shadows on the cave walls. Jack kept one hand on his weapon while holding his scanner with the other. After 20 minutes of careful descent, the passage opened into a vast underground chamber. "Wait," Blue said through the translator. The alien sensors were more sensitive than human technology. "Air different here. Breathable." Jack checked his own readings. Incredibly, the chamber had pockets of oxygen-rich atmosphere. He noticed strange formations on the walls, too regular to be natural. "This cave," he said slowly, "someone made it." Blue moved toward a corner where mechanical debris lay scattered. The alien's long fingers traced what appeared to be an ancient atmospheric processor. Jack watched as Blue examined the device with obvious familiarity. Despite himself, he felt impressed by the alien's technical knowledge. "Can fix," Blue announced. "Need human help. Your hands. Stronger." Jack hesitated. Working together meant removing their helmets in the breathable zone. Trusting each other, but their suits' air supplies were running dangerously low. They had no choice. With careful movements, they unsealed their helmets. Jack's first breath of cave air burned slightly but remained breathable. He got his first clear look at Blue's face, elegant and alien, with patterns of light moving beneath translucent skin. They worked in silence, Blue directing while Jack handled the heavier components. The alien's knowledge combined with Jack's strength made the repair possible. After 2 hours, the processor hummed to life, its ancient filters beginning to clean the cave's air. "Why help me?" Blue asked suddenly, luminescence flickering with curiosity. Jack paused before answering. "Same reason you're helping me. Want to live." A sound echoed from deeper in the cave system, stopping their conversation. Something moved in the darkness beyond Blue's natural glow. Jack raised his weapon while Blue's light pulsed rapidly in alarm. The noise came again, closer this time. A scraping sound like claws on stone. Multiple sets of claws. "We need light," Jack whispered, pulling an emergency flare from his salvaged supplies. The red illumination filled the chamber, revealing numerous tunnels leading deeper underground. And in one of them, something massive shifted in the shadows. Blue's translator crackled. "Not alone here." They backed toward the processor, their only working piece of technology. Jack's weapon seemed very small as a large shape began emerging from the tunnel. Their previous mistrust of each other suddenly felt meaningless compared to the ancient horror awakening before them. The hunt was about to begin. The creature that emerged from the tunnel was like nothing they had seen before. Its body was pale and eyeless, adapted to the eternal darkness of the caves. Multiple limbs ended in razor-sharp claws that clicked against the stone floor, but most disturbing was its size, easily 3 times larger than Jack. "Don't move," Blue whispered, the alien's glow dimming to its lowest level. Hunting by sound and smell. Jack's military training kicked in. He slowly raised his weapon, aiming at what appeared to be the creature's head. But before he could fire, 2 more emerged from different tunnels. They were surrounded. "When I pulse bright," Blue said through the translator, "run left. We'll blind them." Jack nodded slightly, understanding the plan. Seconds stretched like hours as the creatures crept closer. Then Blue's body flared with brilliant light, filling the chamber with intense brightness. The creatures screamed, a horrible shrieking sound that echoed through the caves. They ran, Jack firing behind them to keep the creatures back. Blue's light guided them through the twisting passages. The alien's natural sense of direction proved invaluable in the maze-like tunnels. The creatures pursued, their claws scraping against stone, their shrieks getting closer. There, Blue pointed to a narrow crack in the wall, too small for them. They squeezed through just as one of the creatures lunged, its claws missing Jack by inches. They emerged into a smaller chamber filled with what looked like ancient technology, but they had no time to examine it. The creatures were trying to break through the crack, making the walls shake. "Help me," Jack said, pushing against a heavy metal container. Together, they barricaded the entrance. The creatures continued their assault, but couldn't break through. As their breathing steadied, they noticed strange markings on the walls, symbols that weren't human or from Blue's civilization. This chamber was clearly part of something bigger, something older. "Look," Blue moved closer to one wall, light pulsing with excitement. "These markings show more chambers." Map. Jack studied the ancient diagrams. "Those creatures, they're not natural. They were made. This place, it's some kind of facility." A deep rumble shook the chamber. The creatures had found another way in. But this time, they were ready. Jack checked his weapon while Blue's light brightened, ready to fight. They stood back to back, the human and alien united against a common enemy. The wall burst open, and the hunt began again. But this time, they weren't just running. They were looking for answers in this ancient place, and somehow they would find them, together or not at all. The ancient facility's corridors seemed endless. Jack and Blue moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing off metal walls that hadn't seen life in centuries. They had managed to lose the creatures 2 levels down, but the sounds of distant shrieks reminded them they weren't truly safe. These readings, Blue said, examining a still-functioning console with glowing fingers. This was genetic research facility, very advanced, beyond both our species. Jack wiped dust from another screen, revealing diagrams of DNA structures, some familiar, others alien. They were combining different species. But why? Before Blue could answer, Jack stumbled, his vision blurred, and sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the cave's coolness. Blue caught him before he fell, the alien's touch surprisingly gentle. "You sick?" Blue's translator crackled with concern. "Unknown pathogen. Readings unusual." Jack's breath came in short gasps. "Must have been exposed when we took our helmets off. Why aren't you affected?" Blue's luminescence flickered rapidly, their equivalent of deep thought. The alien helped Jack to a nearby chamber that looked like a medical bay. Ancient but still functional equipment lined the walls. "Risk using old medical scanner," Blue said. "Could help, could harm. Your choice." Jack nodded weakly. He had no other options. Blue activated the scanner, its beam washing over Jack's body. The alien's eyes widened at the results. "Impossible," Blue whispered. "Your DNA, changing. Adapting. Combining with." "With what?" Jack managed to ask. "With mine." Blue showed him the screen. "When we removed helmets, breathed same air. Ancient technology still active. Still working. Still combining." Jack's fever spiked. Through the haze of pain, he saw Blue's luminescence had changed color, matching the rhythm of his own heartbeat. They were connecting on a level neither species had thought possible. A crash echoed through the facility. The creatures had found them. But this time, something was different. Jack could sense them approaching, just as Blue could. Their shared DNA was awakening new abilities. "They're not hunting us," Jack realized, his strength slowly returning. "They're testing us, like everything else in this place." Blue's light pulsed in agreement. "We are becoming what they wanted to create. Question is, do we fight it?" Before they could discuss further, the door burst open. The creatures entered, but didn't attack. Instead, they waited, as if expecting something. Jack and Blue stood together, their bodies changing, evolving. Whatever they were becoming, they would face it together. The true purpose of the facility was about to reveal itself, and with it, the reason they had been brought here. The question wasn't whether they would survive anymore. It was what they would become. The changes came faster now. Jack watched as his skin began developing patches that glowed like Blue's, while the alien's form became more solid, more human-like. Their transformation was breaking down millions of years of separate evolution. "Found more data," Blue called out, the alien's voice now carrying tones that sounded almost human. "Not accident. Our crash. Planned. Both governments knew." Jack moved to the console, his movements quicker and more fluid than before. His enhanced vision could now read both human and alien text. "They've been watching this place, waiting for the right time to send. Test subjects." The facility's main computer was revealing its secrets. Both their species had discovered this ancient laboratory decades ago. Instead of sharing the discovery, each side had waited, hoping to use its power against the other. Now they had their guinea pigs, a human and alien forced together by circumstance. "Look at this," Jack pointed to a sequence of images. Previous attempts. All failed. Subjects fought the change. Fought each other. Died. Blue's light pulsed with understanding. "We different. We chose to trust, to help each other survive." A sudden pain shot through Jack's body. He fell to his knees, feeling his bones shift and change. Blue experienced the same, their forms becoming something new, something that had never existed before. Emergency signal. Blue gasped through the pain. Our ships, coming to rescue. The facility's sensors had detected approaching vessels, both human and alien. They were coming to collect their specimens, to study what the ancient laboratory had created. Jack reached out, his partially transformed hand meeting Blue's. Their touch created a surge of shared consciousness, memories, feelings, understanding flowing between them. They saw the truth of what they were becoming, a bridge between species, a living proof that unity was possible. "We can't let them take us," Jack said, standing on legs that were stronger than any humans. "This power, they'll use it for war." Blue's new form straightened, their combined DNA having created something beautiful rather than monstrous. "Then we make choice. Now." The facility's walls hummed with power, responding to their evolved forms. They weren't just test subjects anymore. They were what the ancient builders had intended all along, guardians of a power too great for any one species to control. Through their shared consciousness, they made their decision. The rescue ships were coming, but they wouldn't find what they expected. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was the beginning of something much bigger than either of their civilizations had imagined. Their bodies had stabilized into something extraordinary. Jack's skin now rippled with bioluminescent patterns that responded to his thoughts, while Blue had developed the strength and adaptability of human physiology. But the most remarkable changes were the new abilities they had gained. "Watch this," Jack said, placing his hand on the facility's wall. His consciousness merged with the ancient systems, accessing databases and controls that had been dormant for millennia. Through their shared mental link, Blue could see everything he saw. They discovered they could survive the planet's toxic atmosphere without suits. Their new biology processed the deadly gases as easily as oxygen. The extreme temperatures that had threatened to kill them now felt merely uncomfortable. "More ships approaching," Blue announced, their enhanced senses detecting the vessels long before the facility sensors. Not just rescue teams, military vessels. Through their connection to the facility, they watched as a fleet of ships entered orbit. Both human and alien forces had sent their strongest vessels, clearly expecting resistance. They weren't coming to rescue, they were coming to capture. "They'll fight each other for control of this place," Jack said, feeling the vibrations of landing shuttles through the planet's crust. "Just like they always have." Blue moved to the central control room, their movements flowing like water. "We have power now, can show them truth." Together, they activated the facility's deepest protocols. The creatures that had hunted them, now clearly visible as failed experiments, retreated to their chambers. The ancient machines hummed to life, responding to the presence of successful hybrid beings for the first time. "Look what they feared," Blue said, displaying records of previous experiments. "Not failure, success. Feared we would become something beyond their control." Jack understood. Their governments hadn't wanted cooperation between species. They had wanted weapons, soldiers, tools of war. Instead, they had created something far more powerful, proof that their differences could be overcome. Through their enhanced senses, they felt the rescue teams entering the facility, armed soldiers from both sides, ready for combat. But they wouldn't find their targets. Jack and Blue had evolved beyond simple capture. "Time to show them," Jack said, his bioluminescence brightening. "Show them what we've become." The facility's lights pulsed in sync with their combined energy. They were no longer just survivors of a crash. They had become living proof that the future belonged not to those who fought, but to those who dared to change. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and the truth about to be revealed. The evolution of both their species had only just begun. The rescue teams moved through the facility's corridors, weapons ready, human soldiers in one direction, alien forces in another. Neither side trusted the other, even now. Through the facility's systems, Jack and Blue watched them approach. "They're heading for the central chamber," Jack observed, his transformed body casting soft light across the ancient controls. Each side thinks they'll find us weak, ready for capture. Blue's new form shifted, muscles rippling beneath luminescent skin. Show them our choice. The soldiers reached the central chamber simultaneously. Both teams froze, weapons pointed at each other across the vast space. Then the chamber came alive with light and sound, a display of power beyond their comprehension. Jack and Blue emerged from different doorways, their evolved forms radiating energy. The soldiers gasped, some stepping back in fear. They were witnessing something their governments had never expected. Perfect harmony between species. "We know why you're here," Jack's voice echoed, carrying both human and alien tones. "You came to claim a weapon, to continue your wars." Blue stepped forward, their merged consciousness allowing them to speak as one. "But we are not your weapons. We are your future." Through their connection to the facility, they projected images of their transformation, not as something horrific, but as proof of what was possible when differences were embraced rather than feared. "Your governments knew about this place. They spoke together. They sent us here to die, hoping our deaths would fuel their hatred. Instead, we evolved." The soldiers watched in awe as Jack and Blue demonstrated their new abilities, controlling the facility's systems, surviving the toxic atmosphere, combining the strengths of both species. It was everything their leaders had feared, proof that cooperation was stronger than conflict. "You have a choice," Jack announced. "Return to your ships, tell them we died here. Or stay," Blue continued. "Learn what we have learned. Become more than you are." To demonstrate their power, they activated the facility's ancient defense systems. The message was clear: they could not be taken by force. The choice had to be made freely. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Some stepped forward, drawn by the possibility of something greater than eternal war. Others retreated, bound by their old loyalties. As the rescue ships departed, carrying news of their supposed deaths, Jack and Blue watched from the facility's highest point. Below them, those who had chosen to stay began their own transformations. "They'll come back," Jack said, his light pulsing in harmony with Blue's. "We'll be ready," Blue replied. "Not as enemies or weapons, but as guides." The deadly planet that had once threatened to kill them had become their sanctuary. And as the red sun set on their old lives, they prepared to teach others what they had learned: that the greatest evolution comes not from fighting what is different, but from embracing the unthinkable.